Waycross presents an election forum for Mayor, Village of Greenhills. There are 3 candidates running for one open position. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Patricia Bender, Thomas A. Caruso, Dave Moore.
Welcome to another Waycross election forum. This forum is for the Village of Greenhills Mayor. I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator here at Waycross Community Media, and we have 3 candidates here in the studio. We have Patricia Bender, we have Thomas Caruso, and we have Dave Moore. So thank you so much for being here to be part of this process, and that means the voters will have a chance to see all the people that go with the names on their ballot. Very helpful, thank you. We are going to get started with a 2-minute opening statement, but before we do that, I want to take a minute to let you know that if you are watching this program live on October 14th, that means you can email me your question for the candidates right here in the studio. That email address is live@waycross.org, and if you do that during the program, I will get it here on this magical device, and I will be able to ask the candidates. Now, we have some rules for those questions, so let me let you know what those are. First, you must be a Greenhills resident to ask a question. That means we will need you to put your name and address in the email with the question. Now, I'm not going to read your last name or your address on the air. It's just how we make sure that the questions for the Greenhills candidates for mayor are actually coming from Greenhills residents. Now, the other requirement is that questions must be phrased so that they are for all the candidates, not just targeted at one candidate in particular. So, now that we have that covered, we're ready to start our 2-minute opening statements, and I'm going to start with you, Ms. Bender.
Okay, first of all, I want to make a point. I am not on the ballot. I am a write-in candidate. So you will need to write in Patricia Bender for mayor. There will be a line, but there will be nothing more. So I really want to make sure that people understand that. I am Dr. Patricia Bender. I am a resident of Greenhills. I was born and raised in Greenhills. I started on Gambier Circle. I went to Handel Lane. I went to Flanders, Farragut, and now I am back on Handel Lane. And I want to let you know that I am a patriot. I respect our police officers. I respect our veterans, and I have great respect for our American flag. I am a registered nurse as well as a chiropractic physician. I've had a career all my life. Right now I specialize in acupuncture, and I decided that I would get involved in Greenhills. I love Greenhills, I always have. I moved away and I moved back. So I found myself quite involved in what's going on in Greenhills, and I've had a blast doing it. I am very much involved in the Village of Greenhills and attend the monthly meetings to find out actually what is going on. And I'm hoping to take that position as mayor to help us become the leader and find the ways to make Greenhills more social. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mr. Caruso.
Hello, my name is Thomas A. Caruso, and I'm your independent candidate for mayor of Greenhills. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight to learn more about the candidates and the issues that you're going to be weighing in on in the election this year. I'd also like to thank Waycross Community Connections Media for hosting this forum, but also for the great resources that they provide the surrounding communities, and I hope more people learn about them and access them. And I'd especially like to thank my neighbors in Greenhills, who have been incredibly gracious with their time. Some have even invited me into their homes to discuss some of their concerns with the village, their hopes for the future, and I've heard a lot of stories about Greenhills and learned a lot about its history from them. I grew up in a street just down the way, Pippin Road, and I went to Northwest High School, so I know a lot about the changes that have occurred over the years around this area. I went to Cincinnati State and got my associates in social work, and in my time in that field, I learned a lot about the resources that people can access to make their communities better. I went to the University of Cincinnati, and I graduated with honors with a bachelor's in political science. In my studies there, I learned a lot about Ohio politics and a lot about local politics here and how certain things work as far as a mayor, municipal manager, and council form of government. We have a rich history here in Greenhills to draw from. with many lessons from the problems that we have today that we have already solved in the past, and we must use this as a resource to strengthen Greenhills for the future. Credentials aside, I love Greenhills. I'm proud to be a homeowner and raise a family here, and I'm prepared to provide leadership to welcome growing families into our village. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Mr. Moore.
Okay, thank you for having me here and discussing this. I'm Dave Moore. I'm the present mayor of the village of Greenhills, running for re-election. I've been in Greenhills since 1972. I have an AB degree in education. I taught speech and directed plays in high school after I graduated. Then I went into management training program at General Electric and worked in Evendale for 7 years and 1 year in Wilmington, North Carolina. But moved to Greenhills in -- and joined the fire department and got sucked into the community, found what a great town it is, and a job opened up that I applied for, the Public Works Director. At that time, the village was a city, and so I was hired for that job. When we became a village, became the village administrator. When the citizens passed a charter, became the city manager, a municipal manager, and retired after 35 years serving the citizens of Greenhills. And I've been mayor now 8 years, and we still have a lot of exciting things going on and to do in the community, and I'd like to continue with that. And my basic philosophy of when I was the manager and the mayor is that I have an open door policy, and if anyone wants to discuss anything with me, I am more than willing and able to go to their house, let them discuss it. They can grab me wherever and discuss issues. I'm always willing to hear everybody's viewpoint. We may not always agree, but at least let's hear them out. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, now we have heard everyone's opening statement. This time is going to go really quickly, so if you have a question that you would like to email for the candidates, and we do have a couple here already, make sure you email that quickly. If you happen to be watching live on October 14th, you can email me a question at live@waycross.org, and I will get it right here in the studio, and I can make that part of this program. What I'd like to do, and I'm going to start with Mr. Caruso this time. This will be a 2-minute question also. I just want to start with kind of the big picture, and I want to start with what do you think are the top 2 issues facing Greenhills today?
Top 2 issues. Primarily, first of all, communication is something that I hear over and over again from everyone that I've spoken to in Greenhills. One of the ways I'd like to address that is to work to spearhead an office that would help facilitate communication between residents, council, and municipal management at a direct day-to-day and neighborhood-to-neighborhood basis. Certain issues that come up are things that probably should have been addressed in planning stages, such as the new school that's come up. Their residents there aren't even able to find places to park. Another issue is, I believe, access to information is also important. As we all found out in 2020, we all need to have access to reliable internet, and I believe that providing a high-speed Wi-Fi connection for the village is a goal that we can look for. By doing that, residents and businesses alike can benefit from this, and it might even attract new people to our village. That's something that we all need, especially learning from our experiences in COVID. And moving forward, I believe that we can all come together and make these type of demands of our government.
Great, thank you. Mr. Moore.
Okay, probably, in my opinion, the number 1 issue that has been a problem for Greenhills over the years has been money. And it's a problem that affects a lot of the suburban communities without industry, since Ohio's taxes are based upon income tax mainly, and because we are limited in the amount of wage earners in the community, and we have to rely on citizens and property taxes. And it's always a struggle as inflation continues, since property taxes don't inflate, and of maintaining enough funds to continue to operate the village as we would like to. And tied into that, we're in a competitive market for retaining employees, especially police officers, and we find ourselves in a predicament that we don't have enough income to pay the kind of salaries that the surrounding police departments pay. So we've lost several police officers this year that have gone to other communities where they can make $15,000 to $20,000 more a year. And so we train them, get them broken in, and then they move on for something bigger. And so we have a real issue there in trying to retain police officers. We have a good police chief and a good police department, but it's a constant struggle. And less people, I think, are going into policing because all the communities around us are trying to recruit police officers. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. Bender.
All right. The number one issue and what I would really like to work on is the transparency of our council. Our council is not ever seen out, except maybe if they go to the Troubadour. They don't want to have town meetings to talk to the people in Greenhills and find out what the Greenhills people want. I have been to meetings almost every month. I've brought up ideas. I've researched and gone around Greenhills finding out things that people are interested in, present them to council, and they just don't find there's a need. Now, there's appeared to be a financial issue that the socialization of Greenhills has been to such a limited amount of time that they use it as a money issue, but yet they take that money and they put signs up that are electronic, where the shopping center owner was more than willing to put that sign up for the village and promote the people that are in the shopping center. I do think that we do have a wonderful police department, and I think we do need to support the police. If we can support the police, then possibly reduce the people that are governing us, so the money can be used so that our police force does stay within the Greenhills area.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to got a lot of questions that cover different aspects of the same thing. So in order to fit the most things in here as possible, I'm going to see if I can combine a couple things. I have one question from a viewer about the specific kinds of training, and if any of you has training that is specific to a government position. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Moore. And any kind of specific training that you'd like to mention can be part of this question. We'll make this a 1-minute question. It's just kind of a quick answer. Okay.
Not specifically, other than I've taken courses of various things when I was Public Works Director, and building inspection courses, and some state management courses and that sort of thing. Probably the bulk of my experience was gained working at General Electric and going through, it was a 2-year management training course, classroom studies and work studies. And that's where I honed my business skills mainly. And that's about it.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Bender.
My leadership skills don't come from a political standpoint, other than with my state Ohio Chiropractic Association, being key people speaking to legislators in regards to issues that were relative to our profession. So being at meetings in Columbus and meeting with the senators and legislators has always been an active passion, and I have enjoyed it immensely. I also worked with my local district, my Southwest Ohio Chiropractic Association, and was president of that at one time. I find that my skills as being a motivator and a leader is very strong. I can see and visualize and make things manifest off of the passion of the people around me. The key to Greenhills is the people. It is we, the people of the village, that make Greenhills what it is.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mr. Caruso.
So my background in social work, I've actually worked with clients to access government services. I've worked with people who work in the government, and I've advocated to make sure people receive things that are supposed to be coming to them, because a lot of times government services are set up in such a way that it's made get the bare minimum, but you have to know exactly what is coming to someone and be willing to fight for it. I've also studied different cases academically going through school for my political science degree. I've studied how local politics work and how different forms of administration are organized. And I've participated in government models for creating and drafting good policies and gone over the process of how these are passed with legislation.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now the next question, we will start with you again, Ms. Bender, just so we all know where we are. And I've got a question here from someone in Greenhills that says, what single item do you plan to make your focus for the coming term? We're doing single items, so let's go with 1 minute for this question.
Single item. Well, that's really a hard one to answer quickly
Yeah.
because there's so many items that I'd really like to hit. One of them is transparency and one is leadership. I want to meet with the people of Greenhills. I want town meetings. I want to know what the people of Greenhills want. The median age in Greenhills is 39.5, 40 years old. Median income is $67,000. We have a historical site trying to look at getting established, which to me I think is a great opportunity for revenue as well as fun within the neighborhood. I started a golf cart rental in order to get people to use golf carts to develop the golf cart within the community, which would be a great way to do tours and develop the historical site of Greenhills.
Great, thank you. Mr. Caruso.
So communication's one of the main ones, but through speaking with everyone, one of the major issues people have is taxes. We are one of the higher taxed groups in the area, and one of the things we can do to address this is to grow our tax base. One of the proposed things we have right now over in the D section, there are some large, nearly $300,000 homes that honestly do not fit the spirit of Greenhills. They really don't match the plan of what this place was supposed to be. It was supposed to be for small families just getting started to grow. As well, attached to those is a 15-year tax abatement. Unfortunately, these types of incentives are not something that's going to help us as a village grow. It's going to help whoever buys that home, but all of us who own homes are going to be paying those taxes.
Great, thank you. Mr. Moore.
Okay, well, I sort of have two things. One is communication, continue what I have been doing. I think I've been communicating with residents, and residents have been communicating with me for the past 40 years. And I am looking forward to trying to develop the area that Mr. Caruso just mentioned. And the tax abatement is a 15-year tax abatement. It's not a 100% tax abatement. It's a 75% tax abatement. And it doesn't cost Greenhills homeowners anything because the way your taxes work, they're not subsidizing it. So the village would end up for 15 years with 25% of the value of those homes plus the value of the land. And then after 15 years, we would get the full amount. If we don't do something like this, we probably won't get any houses built. In addition, the houses were approved by the National Park Service as fitting with the original design.
Okay, great, thank you. And these are, I know these are such that all of these are questions you could give more in-depth answers to. We have such a short period of time. We're just trying to see how many things we can hit. One thing I want to hit, and it's torture, but I'm going to do a 1 minute on this just because we're getting near the end already, because it's something that I hear about a lot from different directions. And the question is, how can the village balance preserving the history of the village while also meeting the needs of current residents? Because I see that from different directions. Now this time we start with you, Mr. Caruso. And go ahead.
So to meet a balance between the past and the future, honestly, we've solved so many problems in the past in Greenhills. And unfortunately, as time's gone on, we've forgotten some of the answers to those problems. And we're, again, facing a lot of these same issues that Greenhills was designed to address. I think that by revisiting some of the original plans and looking at what worked, and a lot did work, we can grow Greenhills. In fact, it would be great if we could increase our population back to the size of a city again. And I think that that is something we can do, because we can make Greenhills a place that people want to move into and stay in and grow families. I want a place where my children want to stay and have children, and for their children to have children. And a lot of that has to do with bringing the past into the future, because we can use that to grow.
Great, thank you. Mr. Moore.
Yes, let's see. Repeat that question again.
Okay, I will. How can the village balance preserving the history of the village while also meeting the needs of current residents, kind of past versus future?
Right. Well, that can be tough, because needs of new residents have different housing needs because of the housing stock's old in Greenhills. We have to, I think, promote the uniqueness of Greenhills to new people moving in, because they can't always get a house that has multiple bathrooms and fancy new kitchens and things like that. Although with the new housing, that is an option for some people. But we are competing for people, and it would be nice to get more young families so we could have more kids attending the schools. But I think we need to remind people that do move here of what our history is, and it's a friendly, caring community, and it's one of the things that I try to promote within the community. But you know, we have to sell ourselves as a nice green community in the middle of a park, and you can walk all over the town. You have nice tree-lined streets, so that's it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Bender.
All righty, I think one of the key areas in order to blend the past with the future, so to speak, is that we really need to identify, first of all, that we have a non-voted debt, which is over in 2022, which should really open up a lot of money to the village of Greenhills. They've allocated a certain amount of money for recreation and streets and services and many other things. And so with 2020 and everyone being shut down, nothing really happened within the village. I think what would be very helpful for people moving in are abatements in order to improve and do facelifts on their property. And I also think that we need to reduce the amount of government involvement within the way people decide to design or change out their house. There are so many guidelines and requirements that are put in as ordinances to this village, and it really lacks support on people really wanting to be there. Being a new person in the shopping center, I was hounded left and right by the village manager on things that were really just so trivial and yet so ugly when she tried to work with me. And so I'm really hoping that we can pull ourselves together with good leadership.
Great, thank you. Believe it or not, we have already run through our time, and I have questions. We did manage to hit some from several different people. You touched on things that were in other questions, so that was great. I want to thank you so much for coming into the studio. Mm-hmm. I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching, because that means you want to be an informed voter when you cast your ballot. If you need more information before you vote in the upcoming election, you can watch all of our election forums. They're online at www.waycross.tv. You can also go to the Hamilton County Board of Elections website right there, and you can find out if you are registered. You can look at a sample ballot. You can see where your voting location is, all at votehamiltoncountyohio.gov. Registration for this election ended, but early voting has already begun. So I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator here at Waycross Community Media, and I will see you at the polls on November 2nd.